Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Pad Paramahansa, Parvajikacharya, Ashtottara to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai, ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa, Parvajikacharya, Ashtottara to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai, Ananda Koti Vaishnava ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktavinda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. So today is the disappearance day of Srivasa Pandit. And we'll read about him first. Okay. On this 15th day of June, 2020 in SanDiego, we're reading from the book about the Samadhis, and we'll be reading about Srivasa Pandit today, whose disappearance is today. I have this marked, hopefully. Srivasa Pandit, the fifth member of the Panchatattva, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivas, Adi Gaura Bhaktivinoda, lived in Navadvip before the advent of Lord Chaitanya. Srivas led his brothers, Sri Ram Pandit, Sri Nidhi Pandit, and Sripati in their devotional lives of singing Krishna's names, worshipping the Lord, and bathing thrice daily in the Ganges. Meeting with Sri Advaita Acharya Prabhu, they studied Bhagavatam and prayed for an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. Why did they pray? Because only an avatar of Krishna could re-establish Vaishnavism among the staunch atheists, logicians, and proud pundits harassing Nadia at that time. Malini, the wife of Srivas, was a constant friend of Shachi Devi. She's the mother of Nimai. She served Nimai as a nurse, did Malini. When Lord Vishwambar appeared, that's Lord Chaitanya, the hearts of all the devotees were filled with parental affection, Vatsalya Bhav. Lord Gaurachandra loved Malini and Srivas as a second mother and father. Srivas Angam was located 200 yards north of Nimai's house. Srivas Pandit's, by the way, when you go to Mayapur, You just walk a little bit down the road from our main facility there, and you're in Srivasa Thakura. You keep going, and you're in Lord Chaitanya's appearance place. Srivasa Thakura was located 200 yards north of Nimai's house. Srivasa Pandit's palatial home had large, comfortable rooms, a high protective boundary wall, and lush, densely foliated gardens and groves. Every night, Lord Chaitanya and his dearest friends would enjoy ecstatic kirtans there, and taste the mellows of Vrindavan. There, the raging Muslim Qazi broke the sacred Mridanga drum in his foolish attempt to stop Sri Krishna's Sankirtan movement. Henceforward, Srivasa Thakura was known as Kola Bangadanga, the place where the Mridanga had been broken. The Qazi passed an ordinance prohibiting Sankirtan. Violators would be converted to the Muslim faith and lose their property. Although most of the residents of Navadvip panicked over this, Srivasa Pandit laughed at the fanatical law. Within Srivasa Thakura, Lord Chaitanya showed his divine form to all his eternal associates. The house of Srivasa Pandit served as the headquarters of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. The daily Bhagavatam classes, nightly kirtans, and many confidential Braj pastimes of Lord Chaitanya occurred there. No, he pronounced it. He spelled it wrong. Occurred there. This writer mentions that within Srivasa Thakura, Lord Gauranga showed his divine form to all his eternal associates. I think that's referring to the Mahaprakash. The Mahaprakash was when Lord Chaitanya, who would normally block his ears if someone addressed him as Vishnu, because he's in the role of a devotee. But on this particular night, he sat down on the altar and he accepted worship from all his devotees, and they came and went on for 26 or 28 hours, I forget which. That is what is memorialized in the Gaur Arti, which we haven't sung in a while. But there's a song we used to sing every day and evening, and that's Kiba Jayo Jaya Gaura Chandra. Okay, Srivasa Pandit and Advaita Acharya, the learned chiefs of the Brahmin community, dedicated all their energy to the Lord's Harinam Sankirtan movement. They surrendered their bodies, their minds, their homes, friends, family, and all possessions to Lord Chaitanya's service. They knew no other gods or goddesses. Srivasa Thakura maintained his family not because they were his relatives, but because they were Lord Chaitanya's loving servants. Srivasa represents the marginal living entity, Tatastha Jiva. It doesn't say here that he's an incarnation of Narada Muni. The devotees headed by Srivasa are described as Lord Chaitanya's smaller limbs, his face, his eyes, hands, disc, other weapons. They all took part in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. With them, Lord Chaitanya spread the Sankirtan movement. Srivasa Pandit is Narada Muni, here we go, an intergalactic preacher and constant associate of the Lord. His samadhi is in the 64 samadhis area. There's some amazing pastimes. I'll just recount one. This is described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and the Chaitanya Bhagavat. So every night they would have this amazing kirtan. And not everyone can get in. There was a special event, and one Brahmin was trying to get in. He couldn't get in. He cursed Lord Chaitanya. You'll never have any material opulence. And Lord Chaitanya thanked him for that. But one night, one of Srivasa Thakura's sons died in the middle of the kirtan, small boy. And the ladies were getting ready to wail, and Srivasa stopped him. He said, don't, I don't want you to interrupt the mood of Lord Chaitanya's in his mood of ecstatic dancing. So the kirtan went on for some time, but then Lord Chaitanya noticed there was kind of a subtle pall in the room from all of the grief. And so he stopped the kirtan and asked what happened. Srivasa Thakura told him. So why didn't you tell me? So then he went to the boy. I think he put his hand on his head, and he came back to life. The soul who had departed came back to life into that boy, and he started preaching. And he said, well, I was scheduled to be for so long as Srivasa Thakura's son now, and my time has expired. And he was preaching transcendental knowledge, the temporality of the body and the eternity of the soul. And everyone was not only amazed, but also pacified by that. And then I think he left again, and the kirtan went on. So that's one of the amazing things. Srivasa Pandit it says here that he maintained his family, but factually, he didn't do any work. And Lord Chaitanya asked him, well, how are you going to maintain? And he said, whatever Krishna wants to give me, to maintain, it'll be there. And then I'm going to dedicate my life to the chanting and doing all devotional things. Huh? Is it, he clapped his hands 3 times? I've never heard that part. And his necessities were always provided for himself and his family. So, Shivas Pandit ki jai. And now, we will proceed. Narayam namaskritya narang chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta prayasha badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavad-yuttama shloke Bhakti bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam 4th Canto, entitled The Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 24, chanting the song sung by Lord Shiva, text number 53. Etad rupamanudhyayam Atmashuddhim abhipsitam Bipsatam Yad Bhakti Yogo Bhayadha Sadharmam Manutishtatam Etad Rupamanudhyayam Atmashuddhim abhipsatam Bipsatam Yad Bhakti Yogo Bhayadha Sadharmam Manutishtatam Etad Rupamanudhyayam Atmashuddhim abhipsatam Yad Bhakti Yogo Bhayata Sadharmam Manutishtatam Etad Rupamanudhyayam Atmashuddhim abhipsatam Yad Bhakti Yoga Bhayata Sadharma Manutishtatam Etad Rupamanudhyayam Atmashuddhim abhipsatam Yad Bhakti Yoga Bhayata Sadharma Manutishtatam Etad Rupamanudhyayam Atmashuddhim abhipsatam Bhakti Yoga Bhayata Dharma Manutishtatam Etad Rupamanudhyayam Atmashuddhim abhipsatam Yad Bhakti Yoga Bhayata Sadharma Manutishtatam Etad Rupamanudhyayam Atmashuddham abhipsatam Yad Bhakti Yoga Bhayadha Sadharma Manutishtatam Etat, this, Rupam, form, Anudhyayam, must be meditated upon, Atma, self, Shuddhim, purification. Abhipsatam, of those who are desiring so. Yat, that which. Bhakti yoga, the devotional service. Abhayadaha, factual fearlessness. Swadharmam, one's own occupational duties. Anutishtatam, executing. Translation. Lord Shiva is praying to the Lord. My dear Lord, those who desire to purify their existence must always engage in meditation upon your lotus feet as described above. Those who are serious about executing their occupational duties and want freedom from fear must take to this process of Bhakti Yoga. Purport. It is said that the transcendental name, form, pastimes, and entourage of the Lord cannot be appreciated by the blunt material senses. Therefore, one has to engage himself in devotional service so that the senses may be purified and one can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Here, however, it is indicated that those who are constantly engaged in meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord are certainly purified of the material contamination of the senses and are thus able to see the Supreme Lord face to face. The word meditation is very popular in this age among the common people, but they do not know the actual meaning of meditation. However, from Vedic literature, we learn that the yogis are always absorbed in meditation upon the lotus feet of the Lord. Dhyana vastata tadgatena manasa pashyanti yam yoginaha. This is the real business of the yogis, to think of the lotus feet of the Lord. Lord Shiva therefore advises that one who is actually serious about purification must engage himself in this type of meditation or in the mystic yoga system, which will help him not only to see the Lord within constantly, but to see him face to face and become his associate in Vaikuntha Loka or Goloka Vrindavan. The word swadharmam, as in swadharmam anutishtatam, indicates that the system of varnashram, which indicates the occupational duties of the Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, and which is the perfect institution for humanity, must be supported by Bhakti Yoga, if one at all wants security in life. Generally, people think that simply by executing the occupational duties of a Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra, or the duty of a brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, or sannyasi, one becomes fearless or securely attains liberation. But factually, unless all these occupational duties are accompanied by Bhakti Yoga, one cannot become fearless. In the Bhagavad Gita, there are descriptions of Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, etc. But unless one comes to the point of Bhakti Yoga, the other yogas cannot help one attain the highest perfection of life. In other words, Bhakti Yoga is the only means for liberation. We find this conclusion also in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in a discussion between Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Roy regarding a human being's liberation from this material world. In that discussion, Ramananda Roy referred to the execution of Varnashram Dharma, and Lord Chaitanya indicated that the Varnashram Dharma was simply external, eho bahya. Lord Chaitanya wanted to impress upon Ramananda Roy that simply by executing the duties of Varnashram Dharma, one is not guaranteed liberation. Finally, Ramananda Roy referred to the process of Bhakti Yoga. What verse did he quote? No one is looking at the... No, you're reading it. The beginning of the verse. Jnani, Udapasya. All right, we'll go over it later. But you're right. He quotes the second line. Third line. Stane stita shritigatam tanovan manobi. This is Bhagavad 10:14-3. Regardless of one's condition of life, if he practices Bhakti Yoga, which begins with hearing, Shruti-gatam, the transcendental messages of the Lord through the mouths of devotees, he gradually conquers the unconquerable Lord. God is known to be unconquerable, but one who submissively hears the words of a self-realized soul conquers the unconquerable. The conclusion is that if one is serious about liberation, he not only should execute the occupational duties of Varnashram Dharma, but should also engage in Bhakti Yoga by beginning with hearing from a realized soul. This process will help the devotee conquer the unconquerable Supreme Personality of Godhead and become his associate after giving up the material body. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Midatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So he refers to the previous verse, which I'm going to chant. I just missed getting out on this nectar verse. This is kind of the highlight for me of this whole song. Padasharat padma palacharochisha nakad nubir non tamagang badunmata padashayasvi mapasta sadvasham padam goro marga gurustamodrusham. My dear Lord, your two lotus feet are so beautiful that they appear like two blossoming petals of the lotus which grows during the autumn season. Indeed, the nails of your lotus feet emanate such a great effulgence that they immediately dissipate all the darkness in the heart of a conditioned soul. My dear Lord, kindly show me that form of yours which always dissipates all kinds of darkness in the heart of a devotee. My dear Lord, you are the supreme spiritual master of everyone. Therefore, all conditioned souls covered with the darkness of ignorance can be enlightened by you as the spiritual master. So, I have to ask you, did I say Om Jnana? Okay. I say it so much I forget I said it. So, he recommends, Lord Shiva is saying, that one should meditate on Krishna's lotus feet as described above. Well, practically speaking, for us, that means, if you really want to do it, just chant the verse. Meditate on the verse that's describing. Our meditation focuses on the sound. And that's the first process of the 9 processes of devotional service. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. The Vishnu Smaranam is our meditation. And it's nourished and developed by hearing and chanting. Those 3 form the foundation of our whole practice of Bhakti Yoga. And it's especially suited for this age, as Arjuna complained in the 6th chapter after Krishna gave him all of this summary description of Ashtanga Yoga. Go to a secluded place, completely alone, sacred place, clean, sit down in such a way. Prabhupada says, right angular, very straight. Yes, thank you. And stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Now that tip of the nose is where the nose begins. In other words, right here. Tip of the nose, believe me, it's here. There's another spot in the 8th chapter where he mentions between the 2 eyebrows. So this is where the attention is. And then concentrate on the super soul within after the breathing. Arjuna complained on our behalf, impossible. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramadi balavadadham tasyaham nagaham manye vayo evajaduskuram. Thank you very much, Krishna, but my mind is too restless. Chanchalam is for this process. I'm very obstinate and strong. Pramati balavadadham. I think trying to control the mind by this process is like trying to control the wind. Those of us who are veterans of Miami remember how these hurricanes would blow up. The season has started already now. It starts with the tropical storm. It's coming. We'd always keep track of the weather map, see if it's coming our way. Actually, after I left there is when Andrew hit. I think that was the worst hit. I called Dharma. I said, Dharma, it's coming right at you. I looked at the map. He said, oh, that's right, we're just praying to Krishna. I said, okay, The thing veered at the last minute, what I remember, and went down and it wrecked that air base down there. It hasn't opened since. Just completely destroyed an Air Force base. So imagine trying to control your mind without the Hare Krishna mantra, without the dancing and chanting, without the deities, without the prasadam, without the books, just you and your mind sitting there in the Himalayas. No, it's not going to work, not in Kali Yuga for the vast, vast majority. So now there's also this idea of the occupational duties. Now that's also mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. And if you would allow me, I pulled up all these verses. No, here it is. Yatak pavitir bhutanam. Does anyone recognize that verse? Not that famous, but this is Yatak pavitir bhutanam yena sarvmidantatam svakarmanatam abhyarchya siddhim vindati manava. What it's saying here is that by performing his own work, a man can attain can attain perfection by worship of the Lord through that work, Lord who is the source of all beings and who is all pervading. So in other words, we have to do something and live in this world. Not everybody can be a member of the Hare Krishnas. And so, I mean, in an ashram. So the idea is to somehow, through your work, make it an act of worship. Now, the way that's usually done is by giving a portion of your hard-earned wealth, sacrificing, and giving charity to the institution. But especially in the present age, any job you have, almost all the jobs, unless it happens to be working with devotees, you're going to be distracted. It's going to interrupt your, meditation. So, but still, this is a bona fide way of advancing, is by trying to make your work within the varnashram system, and that's explained in the second chapter with this famous verse: Atak pumbya dvija shreshta varnashrama vibhagasha svanasthitasya dharmasya sangsade haritoshanam. This is spoken by Sutta Goswami to the assembled sages. O best among the twice-born, it's therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's occupation according to caste divisions and orders is to please the personality of Godhead. So that's what Shiva is referring to here in his... those who are serious about executing their actionable duties, who want freedom from fear, must take to this process. But Prabhupada, in the purport, he refers to this conversation of Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Roy, where Lord Chaitanya, amazingly enough, takes the position of the disciple and Ramananda Roy of the guru. Ramananda Roy was unwilling to do that. Not only did he recognize Lord Chaitanya's exalted status as a sannyasi and fount of knowledge and ecstatic ananda and bliss, but he himself was a kayasta. He was on the Shudra level. He was a minister. He was involved in politics and everything. But he was a highly realized soul in the highest levels of prema bhakti and madhurya ras. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had recommended him that Lord Chaitanya see him when he go on his trip to South India. He said, previously I didn't recognize his glories, but now when he became a bhakta, he said, oh, he's the one you should see. So Ramananda Roy was reluctant, and Lord Chaitanya encouraged him with the verse, Vijay, Kiba, Vipra. Yes. And Prabhupada says this is a very important point, verse for our Krishna consciousness movement. So what that says is, whether one is a Vipra, a Brahman, or a Shudra, or a sannyasi, whoever you are, if that person knows the science of bhakti, he can become a guru. If he is fully realized and he knows the science of bhakti, then he also could become a... It doesn't matter what your external birth is or role in society. So, in the purport, Prabhupada explains this is, one of the verses that is the foundation of our movement, because Prabhupada is making sannyasis out and out lechas and yavanas through the process of purification, known as bhakti yoga. So, in that conversation, the first part of it, Lord Chaitanya asked, what is sadhya sadhana? This is a basic principle we should also know. If you approach someone who you feel and you understand is a realized soul, someone who can give true knowledge, then you don't want to waste any time. This is the big theme here in the Bhagavatam. When the Kumaras come down for Maharaj Prithu, he immediately gets up and he offers a basin and starts asking them questions. Same thing with the 9 Yogendras when they come with Maharaj Nimi. So to take advantage of the presence of realized souls. So, let's see. Where was I? So, he was described, so Lord Chaitanya asked, what is sadhya and sadhana? So sadhya is the goal of life, and sadhana is the means to attain it. That's the basic question. Sanatana Goswami asked the same thing at first. So, because we don't know, everyone thinks the goal of life is somehow to make money, be comfortable, and get this sense gratification. It's just, not only are they wasting time, but they're burying themselves deeper in illusion, getting farther away from the goal of life, and ensuring a life of suffering. This is stated by Rishabdev in no uncertain terms. Nunam pramatta kurade vikarma yadindriya pritaya pranoti. So certainly those who are simply absorbed and concerned with indriya priti, which exactly translates as sense gratification, are mad. They're mad, not just mad, pramattak, very mad. Why? Because such a life ensures that you're going to take birth again. And in this day and age, all this sinful activity probably ensures you're losing a human form. But even just to take birth in a human form ensures suffering. And there's these 3 verses in his teachings that are quoted in one purport in the Bhagavad Gita, very instructive. So then he gives the general principle. And this comes up in this purport, it's very appropriate. The general principle, padabhavastava bodha jato, yavan jigyasada atma tattvam, yavat kriyasthavadidam manomai, vai karmatmakam yena sharira bandha. It's a very instructive verse, Prabhupada quoted a lot. So parabhavas is defeat. Defeat means to take birth again. It means all your efforts in the last life didn't help. Now you're going to take birth again and suffer. That'll happen. This tavad yavat. Yavat tavad is a pair of words in Sanskrit. It's similar to yatatata. Yatatata makes an analogy. You know, dehinosmin yatadehe komadam yavaramajat tatadehantara prapti yadhiras tattanamoyati. Just as in this very body you're transmigrating from childhood, babyhood to childhood, to adolescence, to middle age, old age, death. And then you get another. Similarly, you keep going. It doesn't stop at death, you get another body afterward. So there's another pair called yavat tavat, which isn't as common, but it's an important pair to understand. It means as long as you do this, you're going to get this. It's mostly on the negative side. As long as you don't do this, you won't get this. So it begins with tavat. You can have the tavat first. You'll get this as long as you don't do that. So it says, in this case it says, parabhavas tavad. You will experience defeat in life. Parabhavas tavad abodha jato. What is the source of that defeat? Ignorance. Abodha jato. It's born of ignorance. Ignorance of who you are, what the goal of life is, and how to achieve it. Parabhavas tavad abodha jato, birth. Yavan the jigyasata atma tattvam. So naturally, you won't get the knowledge until you inquire into the absolute truth. Here's that again why the Bhagavatam is the commentary for Vedanta Sutra. Padavadas tavada bodha yavan the jigyasata atma tattvam. Sound familiar? Tato brahma jigyasa. This jigyasa, interest, inquisitiveness into the absolute truth is essential first step of being a human being. So as long as you're not interested, you don't inquire into that, you will remain in ignorance, and that ignorance will keep you coming back again. Very logical. Then he goes on with another yavat tavat. Yavat kriyas tavat idammanovai karmatmakam hina sharira bandha. As long as you're practicing fruitive activities, kriya in this case, tavat idammanovai karmatmakam, that long your mind will remain karmatmakam, filled with material desires and plans and so things. You're acting that way, and it's creating vrittis, it's creating impressions in the mind, and it's filled with material desires, and there's no room for Krishna. Yavat kriyas tavidam manovai karmatmakam, and by that karmatmakam mind, it's all your mind that causes your exactly what body you're going to get. We're making our destiny at every moment, what we think about. Yena sharira bandha. That mind saturated with material desires and plans and fears keeps you bound to a material body. Yena sharira bandha. So what's the solution? Third verse. Evam mana karma vasham payunkte avidyatma nipadiyadhamane. First he describes the situation again in material situation in a nutshell. Evam mana karma vasham. Thus the mind impelled by karmic desires, payunkte keeps you linked up to a material body. Karma and payunkte avidyatma nipadiyamane. Ignorance, in the ignorance again he reiterates. Upadiyamane, you're tangled up. So then he says, Priti niyavan maya, and again yavat tavat. Priti niyavan maya vasudevi namuchate dehi yogena tavat. So, as long as one does not develop love for me, says Rishabhadev, who's an incarnation of Krishna. Priti niyavan maya vasudevi. He identifies himself with Vasudeva. Priti niyavan maya vasudevi namuchate dehi yogena tavat. You will not be liberated from bondage to a material body. So, that brings us back to this verse. The whole point here is that Prabhupada mentions another verse, as Vijay Prabhu pointed out, Jnane piyasmuda pasyadamanta eva. For us, this process of meditating, even on meditating on the lotus feet of Krishna, how do we do that? Mostly by coming before the deities and seeing the lotus feet of Krishna. And then hearing about them and visualizing them with the mind. That's, at some point you can be fully absorbed in remembering the form of Krishna, beginning with the lotus feet. And why always all this emphasis on the lotus feet, lotus feet, lotus feet? Because that means service. You're meditating on Krishna as your ultimate master. How can I serve you? How can I please you? And of course the same thing with the spiritual master. This is why it's all this emphasis on the lotus feet. And of course Krishna's lotus feet have special beauties and attraction. Very fragrant, not like ours. And so now, how to develop that bhakti yoga? So in this conversation with Ramananda Roy, he goes through varnashram, that's external. He goes through karma yoga, that's external. He goes through jnana, that's certainly external. He even comes to sarva dharma parityajya, that's also external. And finally he comes, after sarva dharma, he comes to brahma bhuta prasanna. All of that, you can go further. He comes to this verse by Brahma. It's this one that probably quotes the third line of 10.14.3. So this is important for us, because Lord Chaitanya says, this is very good, now go on. He accepts this. Jnane priyasam udapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukaditam bhavadhiya vartam stane stita shuddhikatam tanuvan manobi ye prayasho ajitatito pasitaistri lokyam. So give up all of your great effort, priyasam, of trying to speculate and figure it out yourself. Who is God? What's the meaning of life? This is Western philosophy. All that priyas, coming to nothing. Wittgenstein and all these modern existentialism. Yeah. They can't figure it out. That's not the means. You'll never be able to do it. Priyasam, udapasya, throw it far away. And simply surrender to the great souls who are always speaking about Krishna and glorifying Krishna. And listen to what they have to say with Prabhupada's books. Udapasya naman jivanti san. Live in this way. Mukaditam bhavadiya vartam. He's speaking to little Krishna there with a little piece of yogurt and fruit in his hand. This is who Brahma is chanting these prayers to. He recognizes, I made a big mistake. I didn't think you were God. Now I realize you're God, even though you're like that. So he's offering these prayers, and he says, Namanta eva jivanti san mukaditam bhavadiya vartam. Stay in your position. Don't make any radical changes, but follow this path of hearing, shuddhikatam. And then this key phrase, tanu van manobir. Not just superficial hearing, but with your entire body, words, and mind. With your body, execute the orders, the instructions that come from hearing Bhagavatam. Van, with your words, repeat them. Learn them and repeat them. And with your mind, contemplate upon them and meditate on the deep significance of these. And then, if you live in this way, you can conquer the unconquerable Lord. Now, Prabhupada doesn't say in this purport, and it doesn't say in the text of the verse, how can you conquer your conquerable Lord? What do you think happens here? Through love. By this process, you can actually develop love for Krishna. Just like Mother Yashoda certainly conquered Krishna. She bound him up with the ropes of her love, right? Isn't that in the song? It's in translation of the song we sing during Kartik. The gopis were able to, conquer Krishna and, engage in all their pastimes with him. And his boys, his boyfriends, coward boyfriends, they would fight with him and he would be conquered. So this is how the devotees don't want to conquer Krishna, they want to be conquered by Krishna. But by that attitude, Krishna becomes conquered. This is the paradox. So, Prabhupada sometimes, I heard a lecture where he's contrasting that with the usual approach, the Christian church or other religions, where, and we also have that in the first stage, to become the humble servant of the servant of the servant, and to be, dovetail your will and your activities with Krishna. That's certainly true. But he says, devotees certainly don't want to become God, they want to become greater than God. They want to conquer God. They want to be able to bind him with their, like Mother Yashoda. It's an intimate revelation of Prabhupada. But it's a paradox in one sense, because the devotees are not even concerned with ultimately going back to Godhead. They just want to be in service. of Krishna, and really the servant of the servant of the servant. And as long as they could be have the service of Krishna, they don't care where they're born. What does Bhakti Thakur said? Let me be born as an insect, as long as it's in the house of a devotee, so I can hear the devotees glorifying you. It's the level of the humility. There's no personal aspiration except to remain fixed to Krishna's lotus feet. That's actually the mood that conquers him. So, okay, I'll read this translation once again. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention. There's a wonderful, because after all, we do want to become absorbed in remembering Krishna. That's a goal. And there's at the very end of the Bhagavatam, in the 12th, I think it's the 12th chapter of the 12th canto. It's one more chapter after that, but in the 12th chapter of that 12th canto, there's 8 verses, which I've dubbed the Krishna Katashtaka. It happens to be 8 verses, and it's all about the glories of hearing and chanting. And there's 3 verses in there that are almost identical to verses in the 5th chapter, which most of you who are verse wallets, you'll recognize. Nanyad Vichaschitta Badang Hare Yasho. This is the one about pilgrimage of crows. That any literature that doesn't glorify Krishna, however nice it may be materially, is a place where the dirty minds of the crows go. In other words, where do they go? The garbage heaps and things like that. The swan-like devotees don't go there. On the other hand, next verse, Vijay, Tad Bhagvisargo, Janadaga Viplavo, Yasmin Bhati Shlokam. That verse is repeated. But on the other hand, that language or that literature, which is glorifying the Lord, even though every verse may be miscomposed, and it's not great literally, that's heard and chanted and repeated by the great saints and sages, because it's glorifying Krishna. This is all by way of encouraging Vyasadeva to write the Bhagavatam. So if you've written, I've seen this commentary, you've written, all of you have written so far as a pilgrimage to crows. Wait a minute, you got the Mahabharata, you got the Bhagavad Gita in there, But anyway, Narada is giving him some strong instruction there. And then the third one is also there, that any so-called realization of the absolute that is impersonal doesn't look very good. Naishkamim apachyutabhava varjitam nashobhati. So then it goes on and describes that, whatever you do in varnashram and yoga and sacrifices, that's simply for material benefit, that's temporary. It doesn't really get you anywhere. But if you worship and show high regard to the pure vibrations of Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes, then that will result in constant remembrance of Krishna's lotus feet. And then the last verse gives you the benefits of that. And that's exactly what this is talking about, remembrance of the lotus feet. Avismritu Krishna badada vindayo chinotya badhani cha shantanoti sattvasya shuddhim padamatma bhaktim Jnanam cha vijnana viraga yuktam. So that constant remembrance of Krishna's lotus feet, which is attained through much hearing. Prabhupada often talks about sufficiently hearing the Bhagavatam. Whenever you see that, read abundant hearing. Prabhupada would often use that word sufficient to mean abundant, sufficiently, abundantly. So every day that we have this class. So what's the result? This constant remembrance of Krishna's lotus feet. The first thing is Chinotya Badhrani. We learn that from the 2nd chapter, 1st canto. The abhadras, the anarthas in the heart are destroyed. And Sham Tanoti. This word Sham is in the name of Shiva is appearing here, Shankara. That's another name for Lord Shiva. Shankaracharya, the great devotee of Shiva. So Shamkara, he who spreads good fortune, welfare. That's Sham. Sham Tanoti increases the good fortune, the spiritual good fortune of whoever does it. And then it goes on, Sham Tanoti, Sattvasya Shuddhim, it purifies the existence. We get that from Rav Shabdev. We have to purify our mind, body, senses, intelligence, everything. Padamatma Bhakti, and of course it nourishes your bhakti, your devotion to the Supreme Soul, Krishna, characterized by knowledge, realized knowledge, jnana, vijnana, and vairagya, detachment from everything that's not Krishna. So that all is a mature stage coming from hearing and then repeating and remembering. So, okay, so I'll stop here. If there's any questions or comments, let me read the translation again. My dear Lord, Those who desire to purify their existence must always engage in meditation upon your lotus feet, as described above. Those who are serious about executing their occupational duties and who want freedom from fear must take to this process of Bhakti Yoga. Nothing? Okay. Then, I wanted to make one to encourage you. I think that I'm safe in saying that if we chronically come late to the programs, this is an offensive mentality. We need to try to, get up 5 minutes earlier or do whatever we have to do in order to get here before the curtains open, before the conch kind of blows, that whole thing. Because it's, try it on a job. You won't last very long. It means you're not taking it seriously. So I know there are various things. We have various health difficulties and so forth. That's one thing. But adjustments should be made, if at all possible, so we can come on time to the programs. And also another thing I wanted to mention, many of you here have never experienced a temple where there's a lot of ladies. In New Dwarka, I've spent time there, Alachua and other temples, this very temple. So when the deities are greeted, and we have some ladies, or even one lady in the back, there's a different procedure. Rather than, we can come in late, and just hang out in front of whatever deity we want. We greet the deities, the ladies are in the back, and there's Lord Chaitanya, there's first Govindam, and then we go to this deity. And at that point, actually, the ladies can come forward. Just like Wednesday and Friday, at that point, Sampada comes out to see Lord Chaitanya. And then we move over to Jagannath, she comes over to see her dressing of Radha Giridhari, she always dresses. So that's the way it moves. There's a flow here, and so that everyone gets a chance to see all the deities up close. Any questions, comments? All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.